Learning a language is a lot simpler than you think, so in this video I'm going to show you exactly step by step how to learn a language from scratch to get fluent as quickly as possible. And trust me, je sais ce que je fais. もう5カ言語喋れるようになってきたし faz muito tempo que estou aprendendo muitas línguas, né? So let's get straight into it. Let me show you guys. And before we get into it, here's the languages that I speak. 日本語で書いてあるから。ちょっと結構難しいですね。
難しいでしょ。そう、難しいよ、それ。
Mais tu parles mieux français, non?
Mais vas-y pas, tu me fais pas.
Frérot, je me disais, mais... Hoy quería grabar un video. Tem muitos episódios, né? Demais pra mim. If you're new here, my name's Zeke. I speak 5 languages, as you've just seen. And it's taken me about 5 years to get up until this point. So throughout this time, I've refined my language learning method so much. And over the past 2 years, I've been making videos on YouTube. I've gotten a lot better at structuring my videos and stuff. So this is literally the perfect video that you need. This is going to encompass everything, all of my knowledge on how to learn a language. So make sure you stick till the end because I will try my best to respond to every single one of you guys. So let's get straight into it. Learning a language is hard but not complicated. So today we're going to go firstly through why you're going to start learning a language, the reason. Then we will go through a general overview, general idea of what you need to be doing. Then we're going to talk about things like alphabets and prerequisites to get started. Then we're going to go through speaking and then immersion, then vocab, grammar, building a system, and finally the biggest mistakes. This is going to be the most holistic approach to language learning. I promise you guys, you will not regret watching this video. So let's go. So first things first, you have to consider why you actually want to learn a language. If you're debating between multiple, my best piece of advice is to literally just pick the one that you find the most interesting, most exhilarating. When you think, oh my God, I might be fluent in this language in like a couple months, 6 months to a year, whatever it is, you get like, you just start buzzing, you know, you're on the moon when you think about speaking this language. Pick that one, okay? Instantly, it should be intuitive, almost a decision. That's how I go about it. But at the end of the day, it's always best to have a strong reason and a good goal as to why you're learning a language. So for me, for French, I had to get to a certain level in order to take it in school in a month. So I grinded out, I banged it out. Summer holidays, I did about like 5 hours a day for French, which is insane. I still haven't done that much for language since then. And I got to the level that I needed. And since then, I just continued kind of with that momentum. And now French is like the best language that I speak. But at the end of the day, if you have fun with it, the reason almost doesn't matter. If you enjoy the process, then, you know, it doesn't matter. I'm not one of those people who's going to tell you have to have a reason and a goal and everything, but I think for sure it definitely helps. For me, the biggest thing is that you have fun. So there's one thing that I want you guys to keep in your mind throughout this whole video. Everything that we're going to be going through is to improve speaking. Now, I know this might sound obvious, okay? Make sure you watch the end of this video because I don't want you to misinterpret this. But at the end of the day, the whole reason we're learning a language is to get better at speaking, is to be fluent. But the underlying processes to get better as a whole in language learning conveniently are by getting better at speaking. So by improving your listening, your vocabulary, your grammar, by being able to understand other people almost perfectly, that in turn is going to allow you to speak better. So that's what this whole routine, everything we're going to go through in this video is working towards. But like I said, we'll get into detail a little bit later. Another quick way that I like to explain it is speaking is for a lot of people and usually is the hardest part about language learning. You got to incorporate all of the elements, it's putting it into practice, you got pressure and everything. So if you reach for the stars, you're going to land on the moon. If we're always aiming for the hardest part to improve the hardest part of language learning, everything else that's a little bit easier is going to get so much better. And that's just how it works. And now I mentioned the steps that we're going to go through in this video. And luckily, most of those are things that are going to improve our speaking. So in this video, we're literally going to kill about 5 birds with 1 stone. We're going to go through them step by step and how these are all going to take you to fluency. Firstly, quick note, if you're learning a language like Chinese, Japanese, Russian, Arabic, etc. that use a different alphabet, you want to get started on that as soon as possible and ideally get that out the way before you even start anything else. For example, for Japanese, I spent the first 2 days just learning hiragana and katakana. Now there's another alphabet which is even more extensive, which has over 2,000 characters. If it's something like that, you're obviously going to want to spread it out through a couple weeks, even months, depending on the language. But if it's something like Arabic or Kana or Russian, you can learn all of those within the first 1 to 2 days. Do that, get that out of the way first. Make sure you watch a playlist on the pronunciation as well. If you want to know how, just look up a tutorial on how to learn the alphabet in each language and just follow that with your own discretion. So number one thing that I want everyone who's watching this video to be doing, no matter where you are in your language learning journey, is I want you to start speaking from today. Okay, as I already said, this is what we're working towards. Okay, speaking is something that you develop by doing it. Speaking is just like a fundamental cornerstone of language learning, and it should always be in the back of your head. I just always, throughout my day, it's always so just ingrained in my mind that whenever I get opportunity, whenever I'm by myself, I'll start talking to myself and speak to people or speak to AI, whatever it is. Anytime I hear something, I repeat it out loud myself. This is shadowing, which we'll get into later on in the video. Speaking is just a given. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is waiting until they're ready to start speaking the language they're learning. I made this mistake for Japanese. As soon as I actually just started exposing myself, putting myself out there and started speaking myself, my speaking improved so much. I think to a certain degree, speaking things out loud allows you to remember them slightly better as well. Reality is that speaking isn't the reward for learning a language, it's one of the fastest ways to actually learn it. Every conversation teaches you in two ways. First, you find out what you don't understand. Maybe your teacher uses a new expression, says a new word that you don't know, or just says it faster than you're used to. Secondly, you find out what you don't know intrinsically how to say. Maybe you want to express something, but you find yourself just spending ages looking for the word that you want to say, or that you just don't have the grammar yet to say it. Instead of guessing what to study next, the conversations actually show you what you need to do next in order to improve. That's why I build conversation practice into my daily routine using something like italki.
¿Es esta remera que tenés o no? Esta nada que ver. A ver, que yo no sé mucho de fútbol.
No he entendido. ¿Puedes repetir?
¿Es esta la remera que tenés o nada que ver esta remera?
Remera, ¿qué quiere decir remera?
Remera es lo que tenés puesto acá arriba.
Dice, ok, remera,
sí, bueno,
remera quiere decir esto, ¿no?
Sí, camiseta también, bueno.
For those of you unfamiliar with it, italki is an online language learning platform where you can book personalized lessons with native speaking teachers. What I like about italki is that the lessons are completely personalized, so whether you're learning for travel, exams, or simply to become conversational, there's teachers out there for you. Your teacher tailors each lesson to your goals. You're also practicing with native speaking teachers, so you're improving your listening, your speaking, and pronunciation while learning expressions that people genuinely use. There are over 150 languages offered and over 30,000 teachers worldwide, which is insane. You got such a big selection, and you can filter by language, price, availability, even speciality to find somebody who actually suits you. This means you're always going to be comfortable no matter what. If you're a beginner, you could even find teachers that speak your native language. I get pretty nervous when I'm speaking a language for the first time, so I know this helps a lot. I also like that there's no subscription. You simply pay per lesson, and because teachers are available across different time zones, it's easy to fit lessons around school, university, or work and find a time that actually fits for you. If you'd like to start speaking from day one, as you should, check out italki and click the link in the description. When you use my promo code SHIOJ8 to purchase your first $10 of italki credit, you'll get $5 off of your first purchase. Be quick because it's only available for the first 50 users. So now you might be thinking, but I literally can't speak. I don't know what to say. I get mind blocks, mind freezes every time I try to speak. Even if I get a tutor, what am I gonna learn? So that's what the rest of this video is for. We're gonna go through how you can actually develop the foundation, the knowledge, the breadth of understanding to actually start outputting what you know. Let's go. So step number 2, after you started speaking to yourself already, I want you to jump straight in. If you got nothing to say, this is where you're gonna learn a little bit already. You need to be doing loads and loads and loads, I mean loads of listening, guys. I'm so serious. Listening is one of the most important, probably the second most important components of language learning. The 3 things that I want you to remember is listening, immersion, and comprehensible input. Okay, I do not want you to be studying the language. No studying. When I say don't study language, I mean we do not do textbooks. Okay, we do not treat it like school. We don't do any of that. That's gonna make it so boring. You're gonna be stiff. You're gonna talk like a robot. We don't do that. Instead, here's what we do. I want you to consume the language. So what I mean by this is things like watching YouTube videos, watching easy cartoons, listening to podcasts. Oh my God, podcasts are like my favorite way to consume a language. You can learn so much because you can multitask at the same time. And essentially what you're doing is you are immersing yourself in the language. So I mentioned earlier, immersion. You literally almost want to be surrounded by the language constantly 24/7, because this is going to allow your brain to literally toggle into the language. This is so important, guys, I promise you. And now at the start, you're not going to understand a lot. That's totally normal. And this is where comprehensible input comes in. What you want to do is aim for the easiest stuff you can, especially at the beginning, so you can start to pick up things, you want to have about 80 to 90% understanding if possible, because your brain is then going to fill in the gaps of that 10 to 20%. That's the new content that you're going to learn. So this is comprehensible input. Now at the beginning, there's probably going to be nothing that you understand 80% of, which is totally normal. So how do we fix that? That's what we're going to go through in the next couple steps. What I want you to take away from this step is get started listening and watching content, not reading, okay? You can read as long as there's audio, but I want you to be listening and watching content that is as easy as possible. Watch that, and you want it to be as close to 80 to 90% as possible. Here's some resources that are super helpful. So next step, how do we start getting a foundation to also start listening to stuff and start understanding so that we can then start speaking? What you need to be doing is something like an audio course. You also need to be getting vocabulary, and you also need to be getting grammar. So that's our next 3 steps. Starting off first with the audio course. If you look up languagepod101.com, you can get $1 for premium for about a month to learn any language and get the foundation, get the basics. So they'll literally go through things like how to say, hello, how are you? My name is. What this is going to do is already get you started on hearing the language, hearing what words sound like, hearing the sounds, which is super important. Not only that, you're also going to get a little bit of vocabulary. They also teach you a little bit about the grammar, and they'll also teach you about cultural aspects. So if some of you are familiar with French, you know that you can use the tu form or the vous form, and these are either formal or informal, and there's so many different aspects like this in different languages, and they work differently. So this is super useful to get started. Do a couple of those lessons every single day. That's also going to help you so much, alongside with the listening and speaking that you should already be doing every day. Next step is of course the vocabulary. Now my favorite and the best app to learn vocabulary is obviously going to be Anki. As many guys know if you've watched my videos before, it's free on desktop and use the website on phone. I personally just spent the £25 on iPhone to get the app because I truly think it's worth the money. As you can see here on my phone, I've got the Anki app here with all my decks. I really needed it. I've been on holiday in Turkey and Italy trying to learn some stuff. I might put on some clips here. So I needed Anki whilst I was on holiday because I didn't have a computer. But up until then, I'd just been using the website, but it's not amazing. So if you have a computer, try to do it on there. I like to do anywhere between 5 to 40 new words per day, depending on how much time I have. If you're a beginner, I'd start with 5 to 10 new words per day. And you want to set the reviews to like 9,999. Don't ask me why, just do it. Start with a low amount of new words per day and work your way up if you find it easy. Make sure that you're really focused. If you don't understand how Anki works, I have a tutorial on my TikTok, or you can just look up a tutorial on YouTube. I'll link one down in the description. The reason why Anki is so effective is because it uses a system called SRS, which essentially shows words to you just as you're on the brink of forgetting them. So I promise you it's so effective. I learned like over 1,000 words in 1 month with this for French. So trust me when I say this is good. And you want to find a deck, ideally, as a general rule, because I can only give you recommendations for languages that I've learned. So I'll put decks that I used in the description. You want to find pre-made decks, so decks that people have already made on the Anki Web Shared Decks website. You want to look for the decks that say 5,000 most common words in your language, 4,000 most common words, 3,000 most common words, frequency list. So ordered in the most frequent words to least frequent words. So that's going to give you the best bang for your buck. And try find one with audio, which is really important, because every time you see a new word, you want to see exactly how it's pronounced. And as you mentioned earlier, you want to be doing shadowing. So you want to repeat and mimic exactly how they say it so that you can get that muscle memory started already. Next step is obviously going to be grammar. Now, grammar is actually a very big component, and I tend to stay far away from textbooks because I find it super boring. So instead, what I want you to do is to go onto YouTube and look up grammar for wherever your language is. So I'll put up some examples of playlists. I like to use playlists on YouTube, and you just go through them, do a couple of those videos every day along with everything else that I've mentioned, and literally do not stress about it. As long as you get the general concept of what they're going through in the video, that's really all you need, because afterwards you're going to go and listen to loads of the language with the Easy Cartoons, the podcast that we mentioned earlier, and you're going to come across these grammar concepts, and your brain, after listening to hours and hours of these grammar rules, in context, so in these podcasts, it's going to start to understand them naturally. So as long as you've exposed yourself to the general rule with these grammar videos, your brain's eventually going to make the connections itself. This is not something that you can skip, especially if it's a hard language. You have to be doing some kind of grammar. So make sure that you're watching those grammar videos on YouTube. If you're learning a really niche language, you're probably going to have to go and find some kind of website. Maybe you might not have videos on YouTube about it. You might even need to get a tutor if it's a really niche language. But if you're learning a big language like French, Turkish, Chinese, whatever, you'll have plenty of resources online. Make sure you watch the videos. I think videos are much, much better, because at the end of the day, we want to make this process as easy and as quick as possible to get fluent, and I think videos are the best way to do that. You can always reinforce it with some ChatGPT afterwards to ask questions or to look at some other explanations on some blogs, some websites, but the main source should be videos. So everything that I've gone through in this video, you should be doing from day one, and there should be a daily routine. So I'm going to put up an example here. If you truly want really quick results, you should be doing anywhere upwards of 3 hours a day. If you're doing a really hard language like Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, if you want to find out if you're learning a hard language, look up FSI language categories, and they will tell you if you're learning category 4 or 5 language, you should be doing like 3 hours a day minimum. Okay. And this might sound like a lot to you, but in this routine, a lot of the stuff we've gone through is stuff you can do on the go. So the immersion, so the listening, the audio course, the grammar videos on YouTube, you can do all of this whilst you're cycling, commuting, making breakfast. So you can really fit in an hour, 2 hours of this just whilst you're doing other things. So it's not like it takes away from time in your day. And then it's just an hour of your day sat down, like studying properly, actually watching stuff with intent actively. That's already 3 hours of your day. So make sure you get this done every single day. Be consistent. Don't be too ambitious. You want to set something that's actually doable for you. And most importantly, make sure you have fun with it, with this routine. You know, include things that you know work for you, things that you find fun, things that you enjoy, because at the end of the day, it's a marathon, not a sprint. You want to be able to do this long term. It will take you months to years to get to a really, really good level, and just have reasonable expectations. The way I like to think about it is, a lot of people, one of the most frequent questions I get asked is, how long is it going to take me to learn a language? And nobody can tell you this. You can get estimates, you can get statistics and stuff, but at the end of the day, put in a decent amount of time, like hour, 2 hours, 3 hours is a really good amount, and do it every single day, and you will see yourself, the results are going to come. Trust this method. I promise you, I've worked with hundreds, thousands of people with this method, and I've gotten them real results in my community. So trust this method. I promise you it'll work. If you put in the dedication, the consistency, you will get to a very good level. Depending on the language, by the end of this year, you could be conversational easily. I got fluent in 5 months in French using this method. I learned Japanese with this method, and many, many more. And I'm going to continue using this method. Enough yapping. The biggest mistakes that I often see people make is not speaking enough. Just speak to yourself all the time. Chuck out any words that you know, literally anything, even if it's incoherent, even if you know it's wrong, just try use the words that you've learned. Okay, don't listen to things that are too hard for you. Don't be stubborn. Don't ego lift. Okay, make sure you listen to really easy cartoons. I don't care if you're watching Peppa Pig every single day. If that's what you need to do, that's what you do. That's what I've done many, many times. And the biggest mistake is probably that people are just too impatient. You have to really grind through it. A lot of the time, you're not going to understand the things that you're listening to. It's going to be really difficult. It's the listening component that's going to allow you to truly get really good in the language. But if you can't sit down for half an hour to an hour, just listen to Peppa Pig with subtitles on in the target language, okay, always in the target language, that's another mistake. If you can't do that, then you're not going to get fluent, okay? That's just part of the journey. Things are going to be hard. Things are going to be boring, a little bit tedious, but you have to wait and you have to earn those results, which is getting fluent in the language. Now, some tips I have, of course, is using interactive subtitles. That's going to help a lot. You can do things like sentence mining. If you're interested in that, you can look it up. If you want to speak like somebody who is of your age, you know, you want to sound really like a native, make sure you're watching that kind of content. So if you're like an 18-year-old kid like me, then you want to go and watch like streamers, young streamers who play video games. If you're like a 30, 40-year-old woman, you might watch a 34-year-old woman who vlogs. from the area maybe that you want to live in, that you want to move to, you know, things like that. If you want to learn small talk, listen to casual podcasts. If you want to learn corporate words, listen to really smart, you know, high scale business podcasts and things like that. It's pretty self-explanatory, and you want to be shadowing those kind of things. That's how you really develop. It's how you sound like a native, especially when you're speaking. So at the end of the day, it's all about getting loads and loads of input, lots of listening, lots of vocabulary, lots of grammar. These are all going to create that foundation for you to then be able to speak, to output it all yourself into the real world. That's literally how language learning works. It's as simple as that. It just takes a long time, lots of patience, and lots of hard work. The people who learn languages the fastest are the people who combine multiple methods to make a foolproof method, like we've gone through in this video, combining all these different aspects: speaking, listening, reading, writing. Reading and writing, you'll improve on their own just by doing these things in these methods. Apart from writing, like Chinese or Japanese, you're gonna have to put some separate effort into that. But yeah, this method comes at language learning from so many different perspectives that you're just guaranteed to improve. You know, make sure you're incorporating things like AI, really good tools that I've listed throughout the video that I sprinkled out there. I'll try to list as many as I can down in the comments. I'm gonna be doing videos on like how to learn Spanish, specifically how to learn. I've already done French and Japanese. I'm gonna keep doing those, so make sure you stay tuned. And yeah, if you have any questions in the comments, let me know down below.